Sorry. Okay, well, hello everybody, and my name is Sarita Linda Rocco, and I'm very excited to be recording a session on plant-based diet with Anita Su Jivana, a friend and colleague in the plant-based diet world. And I'm very happy to be speaking with her today. Anita is a certified Ayurvedic practitioner. She's also practices shamanism, healing touch practice, emotion code, which I don't know what that is, so I'll have to ask you about that. She's also an empath. She's what she calls herself a mind alchemist, a healer of the human mind. I can't even imagine that the human mind doesn't heal through plants, so I'm eager to hear how those two things are connected for sure, including the kleshas. She was directed from within to transition to a plant-based diet and teaches people to make the transitions themselves. So I thought it would be a great conversation to have for the students of the Boost program to understand from Anita's perspective how to transition or how to up-level to a plant-based diet. So welcome, Anita, to this conversation.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy we're going to do this.
Yes.
It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I'm so interested in my personal evolution in supporting organic farming, supporting protecting the earth, supporting healthy eating on all levels, particularly with plants. And so this is a topic that's definitely near and dear to my heart. My belief system is that as we're connecting with the ecosystem around us and eating with nature, that we're connecting to the ecosystem within us, and that is truly living what we know to be true, which is that we're one. And so I'd like to hear your thoughts a little bit on that.
Sure. It's really reconnecting us with nature. And of course, as within, as without, as above, so below. And so really going and communing with the plants, understanding plants, understanding herbs and what they do, what the different gifts that they bring to us are. It really helps us to honor not only ourselves and our journey, our path this lifetime, but the ancients. It helps us to honor the plants. It helps us to honor the earth and really all of life. And that's really what is so beautiful about it. It helps us honor everybody, but especially ourselves, because it really has to start from within. It really has to start with us. And so it's activism, but it's activism that begins within rather than looking at something external and saying, oh, that isn't right, I need to fix that. It's really looking at yourself and saying, what is it within me that I need to change because that triggered me?
Okay. And with regard to plants in and of itself, a plant-based diet, someone who's just coming into this and trying to understand, what does it mean to them to eat more plants? What value does that have for a person who's maybe not eating that many plants to up level and to start to eat more plants? What value does that have for a person?
It has tremendous value. There are so many different levels and so many different benefits because, again, each plant is here on the planet with its own gifts. They might be emotional, might be physical gifts like nutrients, for instance, nutrients, all of these aspects of nutrition that they bring to us, but it's also their energy helps the whole. So it's the wholeness that they contribute to, just as we do as humans. We contribute to the wholeness. Even if our mind can't get around what our purpose is, we still have one. It doesn't mean that we don't. It means that the mind hasn't figured it out. But so every plant, no matter what kind of plant it is, no matter what terrain it's in, environment it's in, what the knowledge that has been passed down says about it, each plant is beneficial for certain things. And so this is the study that the ancients did in all sorts of cultures around the planet, because they worked with the plants. They didn't have what we have is technology today. Their technology was within them. Their technology was spiritual. Their technology was plant-based. And so they understood the benefits of the plants, including eating them or harvesting them for clothing or for housing, whatever it might have been. And so, we have such a disconnection from that in our culture today. And so,
we kind of go to the grocery store and get whatever we want to get, and that's what our dinner is. And
we don't think about what are the consequences of eating like so-called conventional food, because conventional food is not conventional. I call it poison food. So this poison food that we're consuming, it's poisoned by not only toxins that are applied by other humans, but it's also poisoned by thought forms. And so you have the thought forms of the growers, the cultivators, the harvesters, the transporters, the storage, all the different phases that the plant took to get to us, to get on our dinner table or in our refrigerator. There's all these thought forms that are clinging to that. And so that's why prayer, for instance, is so important. So if people are not praying over their food, blessing their food, then they're consuming that stuff.
They're consuming the other,
Yeah, so they're taking that within their own bodies, and that's negatively impacting us.
So someone might say, well, how could a plant carry a thought form? So maybe let's back into that and, what is a plant really?
A plant, it has been likened to the human nervous system. And so a plant is a carrier of all sorts of energies. And so it's these energies that we take in. And of course, the sun is the ultimate, what we're actually doing, of course, is consuming sunlight in plant form.
Yes.
And so the sunlight has all of these wonderful gifts for us. And all these light codes, all of these energies that we take in without even knowing it. And so the plant is there to help us in absorbing sunlight. And so it is the sunlight that helps us to ascend, to help us be who it is we truly are. We're not a human being having a spiritual experience or any other type of experience. We're a spiritual being having a human type experience. So we need to flip that. We need to understand that sunlight is a highly potent activator of not only our pineal, but other organs in our body. And I would say even our subtle bodies. And so, this whole concept of prana too needs to be talked about, because it's the prana, these aspects of the sunlight of the cosmos that we consume that are really driving our health, really driving our bodily forms.
Yes, we talked about prana in our last class that we had in the Boost program. And we talked about prana being the bridge between the physical body and the cosmos. And so when we're creating more prana, either through pranayama or what we're eating, then we have access to, our intuitive body and our cosmic bliss body. And those, we become more integrated as human beings. We really are then a spiritual being having a human experience, rather than when the pranic channels are shut down and prana is not moving. We feel more like, a human being trying to be spiritual. So it's a great distinction that you're making here, that the plants participate, or the plants are part of that process that we talked about in our last class for all the Boost students that'll be listening to this, about the importance of prana and why the pranic body is important to nourish. So the pranic body is being nourished by the light, the sun, the energy from the plant
cosmic
itself.
energy. Yes. We haven't really defined what those cosmic energies are, but someday we'll get there. We'll understand that better. We'll be able to, our consciousness will be risen enough that we will be able to discern those things. Right now, most people aren't there yet.
Yeah.
And so this whole idea of living on prana, that's actually my next step, is breatharianism. And so that's I've been triggered a few times from within to go breatharian. And so that is my next step. So I'm a raw vegan, and so raw food in particular has a lot of prana. So it's considered to be the highest source of prana in food because it's not cooked. And so, of course, when you cook food, you diminish the life force qualities in the food. And so it's important to make that distinction, because and that's actually why people tend to eat a lot of cooked food over far above the quantity of food that you get when you eat raw, because when you eat raw, you fill up rather quickly, and you don't want to overeat. And that's why I love raw food, because it's so, you feel so good. And so I mentioned that I'm a raw food chef in my bio, and so when I feed people the raw food, I just stand back and watch them. And it's amazing the smiles that they have on their faces when they're eating the food. And so when you eat food, any kind of food, whether it's cooked or whatnot, pay attention to how you feel. What is that food? What does it feel like to eat that food? What do you feel like after eating that food, whether it's minutes or an hour or even a couple hours after eating it? What do you feel like? What is your mind like? Is it clear and unobstructed, or is it a mess? And so, pay attention to your thoughts when eating food. So, it has to be holistic, right? We have to bless the food. Sometimes you have to clear the energy from the food, like I said, the thought forms and other things. And you can easily do that. You can pray for that, or you can just do it yourself with light. Send it light, all the negativity in the food. So I'm also a advocate for the medical medium. And the medical medium is a man by the name of Anthony William, who is a huge gift to humanity right now because of all the poisons in our atmosphere, in our soils, in our foods, even in our bodies. And so if you think that you're not consuming many toxins, you probably have more toxins than you can really understand. So the medical medium has a book. His name is Anthony William. And his first book was called Medical Medium: Secrets Behind Chronic and Mystery Illnesses and How to Finally Heal. And it wasn't until a year ago, September, October, I came down with a virus that I could not kick. And it was awful. High fever for over 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I couldn't get rid of it. I was sleeping all the time. It was awful. And I went to, had a friend take me to the ER, and I was diagnosed with mono. I've never had mono before in my life. And my twin sister did when we were in high school, but I never got it as far as I knew. And a friend of mine loaned me her book, this medical medium book. And I started reading it, and it's like check mark, check mark, check mark, all these symptoms that I had since my 20s, that restless leg syndrome, chronic migraines, chronic colds and flus, back to back to back to back to back. I couldn't get rid of them. All sorts of stuff that I couldn't I had no idea were tied together.
Mm.
So I followed his diet, and I started eating fruit and vegetables, which I'm a vegan. This caused me to go full vegan.
I was going to say, were you a vegan at that time, or was that what made you transition?
I was a vegan, except I enjoyed hot chai. So like at an Indian restaurant, but they make it with milk, cow's milk.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the only thing that I was consuming. And I love hot chai. I'm a pitta. And so I love spicy chai.
Yeah.
And so other than that, I was vegan. And at the day that I started eating fruit was the day I got up, showered, dressed, and had a beautiful day. And it blew my mind because nobody talks about this stuff. And so I just want to mention the power, the absolute power of fruit in our diet. And Anthony William talks about fruit fear and how we've been trained and indoctrinated into this system of fearing fruit because of the sugar. Well, it turns out that the sugar in fruit is totally different from processed white sugar and all these other sugars, corn syrup certainly, and whatever the name they give that nowadays. But fruit has this terrific ability to fight viruses, to fight unhealthy bacteria, to fight the toxic heavy metals, DDT, radiation, all sorts of stuff. It's amazing. Excuse me. So he has the second book called Life-Changing Foods, which I highly recommend to people. And it's the top 50 foods, fruits, vegetables, herbs, and wild foods. And it's an amazing book because he profiles each of these 50, talks about the nutritional benefits, vitamins and minerals and psychonutrients and all that stuff that you're getting from the foods. But he also talks about the emotional benefits they help with, the spiritual benefits. And that was something new to me, that food could have spiritual benefits. And you read that book and it's just mind-blowing. Then he gives recipes for using these. And actually, if you really want to increase your health, your immunity and so on, wild blueberries are the #1 fruit to consume.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They're not cultivated. Cultivated blueberries have a whitish center. Wild blueberries are smaller and they are dark blue throughout.
And where do you get wild blueberries?
So these are available in the freezer section of the your local grocery store. So it has to say wild blueberries on it. It can't be anything else. And so if it doesn't say wild blueberries, then they're not wild blueberries. They're cultivated.
Okay.
And so the nutritional impact of wild blueberries is off the charts. So I use this in my smoothie every morning. So I do a wild blueberry smoothie every morning. And the clarity in my mind has really, really sharpened since I began this over a year ago. It's amazing. And so it's one of those things, one of those hidden secrets that is just an amazing thing. So
that's one thing that you could recommend that people could do to begin to connect on that deeper level with the gifts. Plant is look for wild blueberries. It's an easy thing. You could add it into a smoothie or something like that. And one new thing that you didn't know about that you could do. Right.
So so this book is amazing, Life-Changing Foods by Anthony William. And he has a lot of really interesting information about food. So some of the things, and just so you know, the first chapter of his first book, Medical Medium, talks about how he knows what he knows, because he is far beyond what is known by medical science and research today, because he is guided strictly and only by spirit with a capital S.
Mm.
And so the first chapter of his first book talks about how this happened. And it's an amazing story. And you know that this is actual fact. This is
Which sounds like similar to what your experience is as well. You've been guided from within as well. Is that true?
yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it's taking food and looking at it in an entirely different perspective, entirely different way, and understanding that the foods have all of these gifts. So one of the things that I do, and this is from his second book, Life Changing Foods, he talks about asking the food that you're going to consume to help you.
Mm.
So understand the whole system of cultivating, transporting, storing all of that food, and that food is conscious because everything has consciousness. Everything is conscious. And so he recommends talking to the food that you're going to eat and telling the food, this is food that I'm going to consume myself. And so it's on your plate. If you have a family, it's a food that's on your plate, the liquid you're drinking, whatever else you're consuming. And I always ask the food for its gifts, for my highest good.
Mm.
And
do you have a particular prayer that you use or does he recommend a particular prayer?
he recommends one. I do my own version of it. Okay. But it was this whole idea of the food being conscious, which I knew, but asking for its gifts for you in particular.
Which is very powerful because you've got to ask.
It's extremely powerful. But my third eye is open. And so when I talk to the food that I'm going to consume and ask it for its gifts, I literally see it changing itself to accommodate my needs.
Wow.
Yes. So this is the whole idea that everything is conscious. Humanity,
whether we can see it or not, it still is.
Yes. Yeah. Humanity has been cut off from knowing that, but we're here now to rediscover this, and it's an amazing gift. And so everything is conscious. So I've seen the elemental in my snow blower. I live here in Wisconsin. So on my snow shovel, the flooring in my kitchen, I've seen so I've experienced this for myself. And so years ago, when I was going through my awakening, I was in my kitchen and I saw this face on my floor, and I'm like, whoa. Yeah, and I'm stepping on a being. I'm stepping on someone who's conscious. And it evolved into the food I was chopping, and seeing the light come out of the food and as light, and seeing some darkness down below of dense energy. And so I was able to gauge, if there's a lot of light there, then I'm going to consume it. If there's a lot of darkness there, that, then I need to toss it out. So it was a way for me to gauge, is this food still good? But I would talk to them. And one of the things that I discovered was the food that I found that had the highest light in it is hemp.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it's the highest light of any food on the planet, but what the food that I had in my kitchen at the time, hemp seeds, I could not see the light being of that hemp seed. And I'm like, where are you? Where are you? I know you're there. And it was like right up to my face. And It was amazing. It's like, oh, there you are. And so it was this whole experience that I went through over and over and over again, every time I made something in my kitchen. And just being so blown away by the beauty of it. That food is conscious. You can talk to it. You can ask it for its gifts. You can ask it anything, you know. So I once went to a shamanic plant medicine workshop. It was a weekend workshop here in Wisconsin, taught by my shaman, who teaches mostly now rather than has personal clients. But so I went to this plant workshop, and at the end of the workshop, we were divided up into groups, 3 people to a group, and you were given a plant outside in nature to go and sit with and discover its uses, its gifts. And she had a book with her that she referred to all the time, and I forget the name of the book, but it was a well-known herbal book that gave the uses, all the different uses of the different parts of the plant. And I in my group was given burdock. And so I sat with, my other 2 partners were at different plants behind me, so I never saw what they were doing, but I asked the spirit of the plant to help me understand its gifts. And so when you do this, you can do this with a house plant, you can do this with any plant anywhere. And the rules are always be highly courteous. Always honor the spirit of the plant, one question at a time, and be entirely patient as the spirit of the plant gives you the information. So they don't have the human ego. Humans have human ego. They don't have an ego like we do. So asking them 3 questions and then it can confuse them because they're not used to that. So ask one question at a time. And because my third eye is open, I could see them showing me different parts on my body that it would heal, the different parts of the root, the leaves, how to prepare them, all sorts of stuff. So I was writing all this stuff down, and we got back into the main room at this workshop, and my partners didn't come up with much, but when the teacher looked at her book and listed what was listed there for that plant, the gifts of that plant, mine was way more, at least 3 times more. And so it's just an amazing thing to understand that what's written in books
doesn't even compare to what.
Right. It's not the whole deal. And so you have to really understand, in order to get the information, the correct and best information is to you yourself talk directly to the plant.
I think that brings me to what it is that I feel is an important teaching today for people. And that is to become a collaborator rather than a consumer. To align with the food.
Yes.
And to have it be mutually supportive relationship rather than just consuming, go get and consume, to understand, to take the time to understand. And your understanding is on a very deep level, maybe much deeper than I've even experienced, or even expected to talk about, but it makes so much sense. Why wouldn't it be that way? Can't we just take the time to connect? And what happens when we do decide to collaborate and we do decide to respect and honor the food that the earth is giving us? Won't that food communicate and let us know, what the gifts are if we just ask? Yes. Quite a beautiful sadhana.
Yeah, I really like your word collaborate, because we're taught to take all this food in.
Yeah.
And if you moved out of your family home, and most likely people dropped praying at some point in their lives. Some people don't, but I did. it was just something that fell away in my life. And so re-engaging with that is such a miracle.
Yeah.
And because you're blessing that food. I actually talk to my body, and I ask my body for the highest good regarding this food that I'm consuming. So I go beyond what the medical medium says in his book, because I talk to my mind. I say subconscious, unconscious, and conscious minds. I ask for the highest vibrating good only for this food. Only meaning only the highest vibrating good. And so that's the instruction that I give to my mind, to my body. And you can do that with your cells. You can do that with any organ or tissue that you have difficulties with. So understand that your cells, your body is conscious. And so it understands what you're telling it. And so you really want to bless your body, bless your cells. I've had instances where I've asked my cells to enlighten, to light up and shed their light on the darkness that they're holding within me, within this body. And they do. It's amazing. And I start smiling and I'm happy because their cells are happy to help you shed the negativity that we've taken in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to read a quote to you from a book called The Wild Wisdom of Weeds. Have you heard of that book by Katrina?
No. Sounds lovely.
It's a wonderful book. And I'll read a quote to you. The plant makes up our bones, our skin, and our cellular structure. The plant's essence infuses with our mind and heart. The plant's rooted intelligence from outside in the weather, under the sun, moon, stars, connected to the soil ecology, and tied intimately to the water of the land, merges with our consciousness, creating an expansive sense of ourselves. By accepting that we need each other in a respectful appreciation, the cycle of life itself continues and sustains itself as life. This is the sacred act of reciprocal appropriation. So I think this is what we're talking about. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yes. It's a beautiful book. Yes. And her book is all about eating wild weeds. And the premise is, and what she talks about is, that the wild weeds are here to save us. The wild weeds are the survivors, are the ones that are coming up to, save us from the diseases that are so prevalent. And here we are going with these chemicals and trying to kill these weeds, with the Roundup and all that. And despite our greatest attempt to kill the weeds, we still have certain wild weeds that are coming up to save us.
Yeah.
So what do you know about eating wild weeds?
I had an experience a few years ago. I was under a tremendous amount of stress, and I didn't have money for food. And I went out to my backyard, and I stopped any sort of chemical treatments or anything well over 10, 15 years ago. And so, and I've done a lot of energy healing of that property multiple times. And so I knew that I could go out into my backyard and ask the plants there for their help. And so I'm standing on my deck and I'm asking the plants for my help, and I see all of these faces, like every blade of grass in the lawn, every plant in the backyard, and I have a big backyard. And I got directed to a plant that I didn't even know was there, Self-Heal. Yes, and it's a beautiful little plant.
It's called Self-Heal?
Self-Heal, yeah. And so I was directed all over my back lawn to pick different plants. And I would thank you, So you have to, because they're sharing their bodies with you. They're sharing their gifts, their nutrients, and all sorts of cosmic energies with you, because they're out there under the moonlight, as you said in your beautiful
quote.
thing that you read. They're absorbing all of this stuff, and their willingness to share all of that instantly with us, just like that experience in my backyard. They had no qualms about giving up their body.
They're willing.
They knew
the plants are the first sacrifice. They
Yes.
will sacrifice for us. It's Mother
Yes.
Earth. It's it's the nature of the mother, is to
Yes.
give of herself to her children, and that's
Yes.
who we are. We're the child of the
Yeah.
Mother Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
So blessing the plant kingdoms, blessing the animal kingdoms, blessing the mineral kingdom, blessing all the kingdoms here, even the ones we don't even know about. Blessing the earth, her atmospheres, her waters, her soils, all aspects of her. Again, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and a lot of the stuff we've forgotten about. But the ancients knew. The ancients did these. We did these because we are the ancients. And so it's very powerful to reconnect in these ways. Walking barefoot, earthing, as it's called. You get all of these ions from the earth, and that feeds us. That feeds our bodies, that feeds our souls, it feeds our consciousness. And
our prana, the prana, that's a great way just to pranify, is to take your shoes off, go outside and walk on the bare earth. Yeah.
Right. So many beautiful gifts, many different practices that any of your students can develop on their own. So ask your heart to help you. So it's finding your own unique way that makes you happy, that makes you joyful to do. So it could be anything. It could be a ceremony or a ritual or a simple prayer or a simple thank you. And so
it could be a simple thank you, maybe to something you're already eating. So maybe it's not like you have to change so many things. Maybe it's not what, it's more how you are.
Yes.
About what you're already doing. And then your consciousness will be raised, and maybe there'll be more ideas or more ways that the plants are actually communing with, where you're communing with each other, and the ideas will be there.
Right.
For new ways that you would eat maybe different kinds of plants. That's a great point. That's really a great point.
Yeah. So a lot of times we get stuck in consuming the same things over and over again. And it's important to understand that we're not designed to do that. Really. We're designed to eat a wide variety of things, and we're designed to be led by our heart. And so when we are led by our mind doesn't know. Our mind doesn't know what is best. And because it's the mind, it's not who we are. So we're actually the consciousness witnessing, having a human experience, witnessing the mind. That's who we are. So we're not the body, we're not the thoughts, we're not the experiences. We're the one witnessing all of that. That's who we are. We're that consciousness. And so
quite a shift in
yes,
who we really are.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the practices I've been doing too is to ask the waters, because I live in a metropolitan city, and so I ask the waters coming out of the faucets, coming through my house, coming out through the cafe where I work. I ask them to help everyone
Hmm.
for the highest good. And they do. So, you know, we're in this paradigm where the old is still here and we're birthing the new paradigm, which is the new earth, an ascended earth. That's where we're going on this planet. And so in the restaurant industry, you have to put chemicals in the waters in the form of dishwashing solutions, in the form of sanitizers, things like that. So here I am in this metropolitan city where the water is already harmful, polluted, poisoned, and adding more of that into the waters. And I looked at that and I'm like, I don't like this, but they have to be used. So you get inspected and you have to be using these chemicals. So I kind of went around that and I asked the water directly for its help. So I've done that in my house as well. All the water's coming in only for the highest vibrating good.
Mm.
Yeah. And so because the water is conscious, everything is conscious. And so the water has the ability to hold prayer, to hold blessings, to hold more light, all sorts of things. And so this is an area that I personally want to explore more and learn about water and how to better help water to be more pristine, fully pristine, and to help us, because that's what it's here for. And so, you know, this is something too that could be considered if you or your students are up for it, is to connect with water as well. And the life force of water is phenomenal, as we know. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful living being that's on our
Yes.
planet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I live near Lake Michigan, and so I bless the waters of Lake Michigan, and I send them, you know, high vibrating light to cleanse the impurities of the waters. So there's a lot of different practices that people can do and learn to help these substances on this planet, because that's where we're needing to go. We're needing to reconnect with that level of nature, to that level of being of service to this planet, because the planet gave us our body. The planet, you know, our body is of the elements on this planet. And so, you know, blessing your body, blessing the waters, blessing your foods, blessing the atmospheres. I mean, all sorts of things that each of us can do every day. And it doesn't have to take more than a few minutes. It's really your intent, right? Your intent is everything.
And really the idea that we're really a guest.
Yes.
We don't own any of this.
Right.
We're a guest here. And so having, you know, that way of approaching life as, you know, we're a welcomed guest, but let's not take advantage, and that let's not overstep, you know, our welcome, and
Right.
really be grateful to the earth and be grateful to the water and be grateful to even, you know, we have much more gut biome. We have more bacteria than we do cells of our own. I mean, we're really part of a colony. We're not loners, you know,
right.
like there's no I, you know, it's us.
Yes.
And so, you know, to go with nature, to communicate on the subtle level, the pranic level, is sensible, because that's who we really are, as the we that's within this form and the greater form that we all are.
Yeah. So if you look at it, we're like a honeybee colony. So we're all in these bodies, these physical bodies, but we're all working together, or should be working together, for the greater good. And that's the area now that we're moving into, is working collectively for the greater good.
Yeah.
And so each of those honeybees knows its role, knows what to do. They communicate beautifully with each other. They're all one. They all move together, and they all are in harmony with each other. And this is essentially what humanity needs to move into, to being of service, to being in harmony with each other, like you see flocks of birds moving together, or schools of fish moving together. There's this resonance, there's this cohesion, coherence that they have tapped into, that humanity needs to tap into at some point.
And we can begin, we can begin here with this simple topic, seemingly simple topic of plant-based diet. And let's talk about, if someone would come to you, kind of an average person, and wanted to, really embrace more of a plant-based diet. What would be the steps? Like, what would be the first few steps of that you would give to a person who's just maybe doesn't know about any of this, but, is a spiritually minded person and interested? How would you guide someone like that?
I always approach it the most simple way possible for that person. And we're all individuals, we're all different. We have our own stuff going on. We have our own habits. We have our own stuff. And so the simplest things are always the best. So I try to start out a person with doing simple things, like praying over their food, blessing their body, asking their body to help them. I have a client who has a deteriorating jaw, and she used to be full plant-based diet, got married, had 2 kids, and ultra stress lifestyle now, because she works outside the home, and so she's just beside herself. But when I mentioned to her that because she's so fearful of her jaw deteriorating because she can't eat raw food, she can't chew it. And I said, well, you have to change your thoughts about your jaw, that it's not deteriorating. You need to build it up. So I gave her some examples, and she was like totally floored. She's like, whoa, what are you talking about? It was so anti what her doctors had been telling her, that her mind just like flipped out. And I'm like, yes, you can heal your jaw even by yourself. Yeah. Talk to it. Tell it what you want. So it depends on the person. That was her situation. Other people, it's whatever they choose that they want to work on, because there's all sorts of different ways, all sorts of different methods. But the thing is that I found, even in my Ayurvedic training, is you have to keep it simple. You can't really shove a lot of stuff, even a lot of information at people. Is too overwhelming. And so the mind gets overwhelmed, and then it becomes fearful and anxious, and that never helps. Right. And so you have to take it easy. You have to take it slow, and you have to tune into what your client wants, what will really help them. And so the simple practices like prayer can really help them connect with nature, to connect with the food, connect with their body, depending on how they choose to use that prayer.
Or connect with, maybe even connecting with like the fact that the plant is a living being, like changing and shifting from the plant, like again, collaboration versus consumerism, connecting with the potential, the pranic potential and the healing potential of the plant, and not just seeing it as broccoli, you know,
Yeah.
and you're going to, you know, consume. And, you know, that maybe one of the most important steps in making a transition, or maybe what it really means to make a transition to a plant-based diet, is shifting how you understand what the plant is.
Yes. Yes. I like that.
And what its gifts are. Maybe
Yes.
that's step one. And then from there, the plant begins to educate you. Maybe take what you're, like we said earlier, take what you're already doing and shift your understanding of that.
Yes.
And maybe there's one new thing, like you mentioned, the wild blueberries, you know, there's one new thing you can try and then add things along the way, you
Yes.
know, and with that
Right.
same understanding. It's very
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. Because you don't want to put a lot of pressure on that person.
Mm-hmm.
And their life is already complicated in our society as it is. And so you want to take it easy. You want slow steps, even though they might want to charge full steam ahead. And in my experience, that can be detrimental. It's taking the pressure off, you know, releasing that pressure valve and letting a lot of that pressure that they built up within themselves to change, that they need to change, whether it's from a major health issue or just a real deep desire to change, or to get back to, in case of this client I was talking about, get back to a type of eating that she was most comfortable with. And so it's releasing that pressure.
And don't you think that pressure even could be partly, or maybe majorly, the disconnect?
Well, yeah, it's a symptom of it. Sure.
You know, like,
Yeah.
like when
like
you're
that, yeah.
disconnected, it feels pressureful. It feels
Yes.
like you have to do everything instead of realizing we're part of a community. We're part of something that already has a life force and already has a trajectory, you know.
Yes.
But we tend to think and isolate and think we're this soul being, you know, that we have all this responsibility, so it's all on our shoulders. So
Yeah.
the pressure, to relieve the pressure, what I'm hearing is, you know, keep it simple. And the simplest thing is the understanding, is to shift the mind into a deeper understanding of the potential and the camaraderie we can have with the plants in our environment, which is all of Ayurveda. It's the whole teaching of Ayurveda.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not just knowing that we're one, it's living oneness.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of a story that Vajra Mishra used to tell of a client of his in California, I believe, who was a runner. And so she's high pitta, and she would run all the time, and she was so stressed, and somehow found Vajra and had a consult with him. This was years ago. And how his prescription for her was to run a couple days less a week than she was, or time-wise, or whatever it was. And he saw her 6 months or a year later. So she's sitting in the chair for her consult, and he tells her to run even less. And she hadn't yet made that connection that, oh, he's telling me that I'm overstressed and I need to run less. But she didn't really get it. But she did it, and she felt better the next time at the next appointment. And so it's this whole, because, you know, most of humanity is so governed by our mind. Yes. That the mind, and this is what I tell my clients, the mind cannot figure it out. The mind does not know. The mind actually runs on old energies.
The mind is dualistic, and it's dualistic, and that's, you know, dualism is, you know, is never going to make a decision. your mind is so fickle. It's always like in the yes or no or this or that, or, your mind, unless you, again, we were just talking about this in the class yesterday, and when there's a plethora, an abundance of prana, then you move to the next kosha. You move through to the buddhi mind or vijnanamaya kosha, and then you're in your intuitive mind and your knowing mind and your cosmic mind, which is where everything can resolve.
Mm-hmm.
But it can only happen when there's adequate prana.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're like kind of trapped in that constant dualistic mind that really doesn't get you anywhere, right?
Yeah, and it's the mind that is actually running off of samskaras, these trapped energies.
Mm-hmm.
They're trapped because our heart closed. So if we were a being who had an open heart all the time, we wouldn't be trapping these samskaras. And life and experience would just flow through us. And so working on our heart to open our heart is so important too. And that's what the plant world can help us with as well, right?
Right.
It is open our heart and move from the mind, the lower three minds, subconscious, unconscious, and conscious mind, into the heart. And so when I do this practice, you just center within yourself, relax, and then allow the heart to open. And then all of this darkness starts flowing out through the heart and it's purified. Yeah, it's a beautiful practice.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, yeah, the whole thing about being so trapped in the mind that we can't discern anything. And that's why, because the mind runs on these old samskaras. These old
so
things that got trapped.
We need to pranify. We just need to pranify.
Yes, yes. So again, plants can help us do that because they carry a lot of prana. Fruits can do that in particular because they carry a lot of prana. And I tell you, in the experimentation I've done on my own self with food, is when I eat a lot of fruit, I feel so good. Yeah, I'm happy.
Like what kind of fruit do you eat? What's an example?
So, wild blueberries, of course. I eat oranges, bananas, apples. The medical medium says red-skinned apples are best.
Oh, okay. Like what type of apple?
Brayburn or any, the darker the pigmentation of red, the better.
Oh, okay.
So look for that in your grocery store. But I eat papayas. I eat raspberries, mango, of course, citrus, grapefruit, lemon, lime. I mix my fruits up a lot. And so I eat a lot of fruit, and because that helps with prana too.
What do you think about juicing the fruit?
Yes, you can do that, definitely.
Yeah. And the vegetables.
And the vegetables, yes.
What do you think about mixing a vegetable and a fruit to juice it?
I haven't experienced negative effects from that.
Okay.
So obviously consuming organic is really important because again, you want to make sure that you're not consuming toxins. And so the organic food has far less toxins than so-called conventional foods. And so you want to focus as much on that. But again, if you can't afford full organic, ask the food to help you. Ask them to cleanse the toxins. Bless the food to cleanse the toxins. Send it white light. Send it, high vibrating light to cleanse all of that. So that's actually a practice you can do with your clothing, your furniture, your entire home, to bathe it in high vibrating light to get rid of the negativity, because we have these thought forms that are going off all the time, right? And so we just need to, and those get in the fabrics, those get in the furniture, those get everywhere. And so, doing this on a regular basis can really help.
Yeah, I can understand that because I know I'm very particular about how, we speak to each other, my husband and I, in our home, because I'm very aware of that vibrational toxicity that can occur. So if there's,
Yeah.
I'm just very aware of that. I always have been. And so for those of you listening, you know this already just by, if you walk into a room after somebody's been fighting and you walk into the room and you can feel it in the room. You're just like,
Yes.
ugh, there's something that feels just really not good in this room.
Yeah.
The energy is just heavy and dark, so
Yeah.
another way, like what I like to do in my home is I like to light candles. I like to burn incense also which is very pleasing to the devas. And I love to play mantras. I just have mantras playing a lot in my home.
Yes.
And even if it's not, it doesn't have to be loud, just for purification. I do that a lot in the yoga studio as well, because I'll just leave the mantras on, for the whole day, and just to purify, because people are coming there to, to shed their tensions and shed their thought forms. So, the mantra can really purify. So I totally understand what you say. And yes, and using your own ability to make that transformation through just intention and respect and awareness of light is such a beautiful suggestion. You've inspired me so much today with this conversation. I can't wait to talk to my food. I'm going to start really having this conversation with my food. I honestly have not been doing it in quite that way. And so that's a beautiful suggestion. I love it. And we're kind of running out of time. I don't want us to get cut off because I have the timer at a certain time on this Zoom call. I could talk to you though for about another 3 hours, I'm sure. Are there any last thoughts that you would want to share with someone who is up-leveling their life, creating more prana, creating better habits that are Ayurvedic habits when it comes to this topic of plant-based diet? Is there anything else that you would want to, or the most important, or whatever, a thought to leave everyone with?
I would say honoring yourself and not adding more stress, because we're so inundated with stress in our culture. Take it easy. It's not a race. It's honoring yourself, loving yourself is one of the most important tools you can do. The most important aspect of life is to love yourself, because when we love ourselves, then we love all beings of any form. And, form goes beyond physicality. So loving yourself unconditionally is really the key. And that's really why people are shifting to a plant-based diet, because they're understanding that they can no longer go where they want to go, spiritually, physically, even mentally, emotionally, all of that, by holding back from making that transition. They can't get there by eating animals any longer. And it's a good thing. And it really says that we are shifting our consciousness big time. This has taken thousands and thousands of years to get to this point. And so even the fact that you're having this class is such a beautiful indicator that our consciousness is demanding that we change. And by understanding yourself more, by understanding who it is you are, you're not a human having a spiritual or a physical experience even. You're a spiritual being, fully spiritual being, having an experience in a physical body, a human physical body. And so you are far more than you have ever imagined yourself to be. And like Marianne Williamson says, you are far more powerful than you want to give yourself credit for or to even think of yourself as. And so that's the direction that we're moving to, because we are far more powerful. We are already that.
Mm.
We are already that. And it's just this aspect of us that needs to be upshifted in consciousness,
And
in
yeah.
joy, in
And it's
love
all
of
about
self.
love. It's all about, actually, as my teacher Maya Tawari has taught from the very beginning, ahimsa, you know.
Yes. Yes.
It's all about begins, the middle, and the end is all about ahimsa, which
Yes.
is non-harm to yourself and to others, which we have a beautiful vow in Wise Earth Ayurveda that we take, which goes something like this. It's an affirmation or vow that we take over and over and over again in our practice. And it's, I take the vow of ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes.
so very much, Anita. This has been such an inspirational and uplifting conversation. I can't wait to share it with the students. And I'm deeply grateful for your time today to speak with me about this important topic.
Oh, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate the opportunity.
Namaste.
Namaste.